because everything would be able to be compromised with these technologies that are coming, especially super intelligence. That's a whole nother can of worms that we haven't even got to yet. But so if we can cause a problem with technology, we can use that same technology to find a solution to fix it. And that's what's always happened with technology. Every time there's a problem, they have a solution to fix it. We're fortunate enough to have a smart car, and every time it has a problem, we can get an update to fix the problem. So again, every update, it fixes problems. It gets better and better and better over time. And that's just how technology works, Robin. It's happened in the cell phone industry for years. Whenever phones were having problems, they would just write a new software update, fix the problem, and we moved forward. They're going to have to be ahead of the curve with quantum, and they will. They've got plenty of time to work on this. And that's still probably a good decade away before we have any real worries about quantum computing. So I like to think 10 years out, but I'm not going to worry at all about quantum computing. I know that problem's going to be resolved.
Yeah, I also look at the same way. Quantum computing, if it's a substantial existential threat to Bitcoin, we will deal with it. And there's already great solutions for it. It's not like there's nothing to be done. There's no solutions there. There's already multiple solutions actually for quantum computers. We just have to implement it. And also, I don't think we should fix something that is not yet a problem. And so people say like, oh, why don't we do it now and all of that? Like we should not fix things that are not broken yet and are like 5-10 years down the line. Like everyone that I talk to that has a lot of knowledge around quantum computing, they say it's at least 5 years and more likely 10 to 15 years that it actually becomes a threat. So why fix a thing that is not broken yet?
Well, Robin, those are words I live by. I grew up with a wrench in my hand, and one thing I learned early in life is don't fix what ain't broken. I'm not going to go out and tear the transmission out of my car and fix it when there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't make good sense, right? I did some of that in my life. I fixed what wasn't broken, and it's like, ouch. You go to school of hard knocks, and you realize don't do that. Don't fix it isn't broken. Great wisdom there, Robin. I totally agree with you on that.
I want to come back to the telecom comparison because I think it's very interesting to see like where the internet kind of progressed and where we are with Bitcoin also now. And I think it's also the most relatable comparison towards Bitcoin because most people have an understanding what the internet is and what it has gone through. I mean, most people that listen to this probably actually have gone through the internet revolution in like 1990, 1980, 2000 and the .com bubble and all of that. And then the iPhone moment. And I want to kind of get a sense of how you think where we are in this comparison and also what you might speculate on where this iPhone moment comes into place, where it's so abundantly clear that everyone uses Bitcoin and how this might shake up with your experience in the telecom industry. The most effective way to buy Bitcoin is to DCA, dollar cost average, or ECA, euro cost average into your Bitcoin position long term with the Relay app. It's the consistency of buying every day, every week, every month that compounds and really builds the position that you want to have in Bitcoin. And for that, I'm using Relay. Relay is Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks or anything else. This is a tool, an app, the biggest one in Europe that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. Relay is also self-custodial. So from the first second onwards, where you buy the Bitcoin on Relay, they are in your self-custodial control. They never have the keys to your Bitcoin. No free freezing of your assets, no counterparty risk, no rug bullying whatsoever. And honestly, it's the simplest app that I've ever used in the whole Bitcoin ecosystem. Super easy to set up and super easy to buy your Bitcoin consistently. So set up your DCA with code ROBIN on the Relay app today. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because MicroSeed is not selling the washer. MicroSeed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Finally, we have BTC Prague back in 2026. And this year, I'm not only speaking on a panel, but I'm actually going to present an interesting new angle, a perspective, a Bitcoin thesis at BTC Prague this year for the first time ever. I've never done that on any other conference, so this will be a fun one. If you listen to this show on a regular basis, I would love to meet you in Prague this year. It's very high signal, no noise, and Prague is just a freaking amazing city with awesome drinks and a lot of good food. Use code ROBIN to get 10% off, and if you buy with Bitcoin, you get an additional 5% off your ticket price. I'll see you there in Prague. Make sure to come say hi.
Well, as far as where I think we're at, comparing it to the telecommunications business, like I said earlier, I still think we're at the Motorola brick phone technology right now. We're at the very early stages of this. And, we haven't even really built anything on the Bitcoin blockchain yet. They played around with, NFTs and stuff. But again, we haven't really built anything on this yet, except for a store of value, which it's done amazingly well. And anything that's finite, and has a fixed supply, obviously, as the use case grows for it, and we get more and more people using it for different things, building on it, of course, that block space, that data is going to become so valuable. It sends chills up my spine. I mean, I'm probably more excited today about Bitcoin than I was, last year when we spoke, or five years ago, Robin. I know what's coming, and when you can see the future and you know what's coming, you can push your chips in on that, and you can go, wow, this is going to be a great ride. Unfortunately, a lot of people today are valuing Bitcoin as they want more dollars. They accumulate Bitcoin because they want more dollars. And I was having this discussion again at dinner the other night with a friend, and when I told him this, he looked very confused. But I said, I don't acquire Bitcoin to get more dollars. I want more Bitcoin. So when the price goes down against the dollar, I can actually get more Bitcoin. I have no intentions of really ever selling Bitcoin. It's just going to be too darn valuable. And again, like we've talked about before, there's going to be plenty of ways to tap into that and leverage that over time. I don't think that time is today. I know there's companies out there offering leverage on it and stuff, but yeah, I think that there's going to be a better time and place for that. And I just don't think it's here yet. It's coming. And I certainly think that before anybody or myself, before I ever was going to leverage this, I would want something that's, probably more in the millions of dollars per coin. And I think that's probably not too far into the future. I think once this thing hits, and once this data is starting to be used for things like protecting the world's data, and for the internet to move money around at the speed of electricity, basically, this thing's just going to rise, and I think it's going to rise violently quick and violently fast. And we could have some of those God candles that Samsung now talks about, where you wake up and Bitcoin's gone up, by $100,000 in comparison, in just a matter of a day or two. I think that is likely to happen, and it's not like it's 20 years away. I watched how fast the mobile networks were built on top of, and all the things that they put on top of them, and how fast that technology took off. And I got into it in 1991. I got into the telecom industry, and there was about a 4% market penetration in the technology at that time. And if you really look at Bitcoin's global adoption rate, it isn't even much past that now. So we're so early. I know it doesn't move as fast as everybody wants it to move, but when it does move, it moves fast and it moves hard. It's still the best performing asset, even with this pullback in the history of humanity. Nothing's performed this. Bitcoin's up millions of percent. I mean, so to have a 50% pullback, again, I view it as, don't run out of the store screaming that the hardest money on the planet is for sale. Run in while everybody else is running out. You almost have to do, Robin, what your opposite of your emotions are telling you. I always tell people, don't make business decisions based on emotion, because you'll get wrecked. So when you feel like when you feel like throwing up because the price is so far down, that's the signal to me. Like, that's the time to buy, for me. And when I feel like, and I do get nauseated sometimes, because you watch this enormous amount of wealth disappear off your portfolio compared to dollars. And, I open my book and I just go, what's wrong? Oh, nothing. They're going to print. And I use those 3 words, every time I have any doubts about anything. And I know, because they're going to print more of these dollars, it's going to take more of these dollars to buy Bitcoin over time. And yes, it's a volatile technology, and that's what happens with technology over time. It's very volatile, especially in the early phases of technology. It's a roller coaster ride. And Bitcoin is a roller coaster, but it's a roller coaster that keeps gaining altitude. And there's nothing wrong, nothing happened, nothing broke. It's just we had more sellers at the current time than buyers. And for everybody who's selling a Bitcoin, somebody's buying a Bitcoin. So just keep that in mind, that, it's not like anybody's not buying. There's just a flood of people selling, and it's like anything else. If you have a flood of people selling at a current time, then the price is going to go down. You don't have enough buyers at the current time, but it'll turn around like it always does. And we'll be hitting new all-time highs again, Robin, and hopefully we'll have another podcast together where that's happening.
I 100% believe so. And I think one thing that people also have a hard time understanding, because our brain doesn't function that way, is exponential growth. And this is actually something, CAGR, or the compound annual growth rate, is something that people have a hard time understanding, why Bitcoin moves in exponentials and what this actually means of the God candle. Because if you have linear growth, a God candle is very hard to understand, this 100K per day. Now we are not even at 100K Bitcoin price. And now when someone comes in and wants to learn about Bitcoin, and he hears a Bitcoiner talking about we going up $100,000 in one day, it seems like ridiculous, because we're not even now at 100K and it has been here for 16 years. How can it go in just one day the same amount up? But I think exponential growth is the underlying thing that people kind of not understand. And if I remember correctly, you had amazing examples for CAGR and exponential growth last time.
Yeah, I did. And one thing I learned about whenever you do compound annual growth rates, just double, triple, quadruple check your math. And even if you're using AI, I've learned you really got to dig in hard, to some of these numbers. And sometimes these numbers are so mind-bending that, it's like, okay, let me try to do this. Okay, let me do it. Let me send it through here. Let me check it here. So I think that, we all want to know where Bitcoin's going. For me, last summer when I was on this podcast with you, I mentioned that Bitcoin's had been returning us 65% compound annual growth rate since we've been in it. Of course, if I remeasure these numbers today, it's not going to be as high. Now, the good news is I have more Bitcoin than I had before. So the next time when Bitcoin's hitting higher highs, And believe me, the compound annual growth rate now, if I had to give it my best estimate on my particular time in Bitcoin, is probably more like 45% right now, which is still staggering and amazing. So if we want to talk about compound annual growth rates, Robin, a little bit, I think that over the next decade, the compound annual growth rates will slow down. But still, I think if I had to give it my best guess, we're going to probably still see a 40% compound annual growth rate going forward for the next decade. And when you start extrapolating that out with any amount of money, it grows very fast and very quick. And, I think that, again, this is a long-term play here. This isn't, as I said on my last podcast, Bitcoin's not get rich quick. It's a get rich slow play. And you got to put in your time. Anybody who's jumping in with the rent money or mortgage money and saying, oh, I'm just going to put it in here because I know it's going to double over the next 30 days. No, that's not a good idea. Please don't do that kind of stuff. I like to dollar cost average, Robin, because I think that's how I'm able to get the compound annual growth rates that I'm getting is I just continue to dollar cost average. So did I buy Bitcoin at 126,000? Absolutely, I did. And I'm not buying whole coins anymore. I don't have that kind of liquidity laying around. I don't save dollars. And so, but because I'm buying on a weekly basis and I'm smash buying when I can clearly see we're in a good pullback, that's all I need to do. I don't trade. I don't think that's something that the average Joe out there should be doing is trying to trade this thing. I think that if you want to build wealth, it takes time. I don't think there's any shortcuts to it. And I think that we're in a place now, Robin, where even when I was a younger man, I thought it seems like the world's become a place where it's become survival of the fittest. And I'd say when I was about 28 years old, that's when it kind of dawned on me that, wow, I'm on my own here. And, I've got to build my own future. And I can't rely on anybody else. Nobody's going to save me. I've got to get out there and do this myself. And I think for people that are working and putting in their time right now and not retired, they've got to do something. If they're just spinning their wheels on a hamster wheel, that's all that's going to continue to happen. You've got to have some kind of a plan, whatever that is. If Bitcoin ain't your plan, then find another plan. But do some research. Find a way to build a future for yourself, because it is survival of the fittest, in my opinion, Rob. And that's the world that we're living in. That's the only way I see it.
Yeah, it's you have to. I made a tweet a few days ago saying you have to protect your freedom with Bitcoin and your income with skills and knowledge. If you do those two things, you will be very fine. So you have to keep educating yourself. You have to keep learning new stuff. If there's an AI thing going on, learn about the AI thing. Learn about like what a Claude bot is. Not because you will be rich learning from a Claude bot, but maybe you can use that knowledge in whatever you do. And maybe down the line, it's a big thing. And so I think protecting your freedom with Bitcoin and protecting your wealth with Bitcoin, but then also protecting your income with skills and knowledge is a big thing. I've made that in the past. I'm really big on having an open mind and learning as much as you can. It's probably the biggest shortcut I took so far in my life, learning from other people and listening and shutting up when they are speaking. I don't have a long life yet, but so far this has been the biggest shortcut for me.
I tell people all the time, I told my son this many years ago, and we still joke about it today, but I kind of look back at my childhood and my life because it's all I can really reflect on, right? And I look and I see that life, as I told him one day, it's like when you're born, you're a brand new pencil. Let's just use pencil. And as you go through life, you get sharpened. And it just sharpens you down. It doesn't matter who you are. Even aging sharpens you down. Things that happen in life sharpen you down. When bad things happen to you, you get sharpened in life and you get shorter in a sense. So, that's just part of life. And it's tough. I don't think any amount of money really changes that.
The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro-seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro-seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. You get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.